From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Louie B.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Friday, March the 4th, 2022. That is 99 days until the Hamilton Ticats open their season against the Rough Riders in Saskatchewan. Yes, it is Ticats Today on the Ticats Audio Network. I am Louie B. Do not adjust your headset. This is how I am sounding today, so I appreciate the dedication, listener, for sticking through this, and my apologies. Hoping for a nice full recovery on the voice for next week's show. We got a big show this week, though, for you. Lots to catch up on when the CFL and TSN's Glen Suitor stops by. And it's been a very busy week down here at Tim Hortons Field, because we are a week away from the 2022 Heritage Classic, the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic between the Leafs and Sabres. That's happening next Sunday. And a lot of people have been coming through the stadium, checking it out, talking about it. Kyle Dubas was here today, as was Sarah Nurse. And we had a chance to catch up with Hamilton's very own Olympic gold medalist, Sarah Nurse. We'll play that conversation for you coming up in just a little bit. I want to get some news and notes in here for you, as it's been a relatively quiet week for the Ticats. A couple of signings to pass along your way, though. On Monday, the team announced they signed American defensive lineman Justice Reed. 25-year-old was previously with what is now the NFL's Washington Commanders and was with the Tennessee Titans before that, after a 5-year collegiate career that had stops in Virginia Tech, Youngstown State University, and the University of Florida. So that was on Monday. Then on Tuesday, it was announced the team signed wide receiver Derek Vickers. A 26-year-old played 19 games over 2 seasons at the University of Utah, ending in 2019. And then on Friday, today, it was announced that the team signed American offensive lineman Tyler Johnson. The 24-year-old played 35 games over 4 seasons collegiately at the University of Louisiana Monroe and Tulane University. So that is what the Ticats were up to when it comes to their transactions. And I did want to tell a quick little story here, because on Tuesday, and this is a little behind the scenes, I'm not going to get in trouble, I'm sure, for sharing this story, but on Tuesday, there was kind of a staff-wide meeting here, which was always great. Now that some restrictions have been lifted, we're back in the offices getting to work alongside each other. But there was a staff meeting on Tuesday, and there was a lunch beforehand. And the meeting was starting after lunch. And I looked over, and Coach O was there, with us as the staff. And as lunch was ending, and it was clear that the meeting was going to be started, I looked over at O. And what was he doing? He was cleaning up other people's plates from their spots. He was going around the table, "Oh, you're done," and picking up their plates and taking it to the garbage. And it is something that I kind of just, it stuck out to me right away, to see it. And I'm probably embarrassing him for even telling this story, and that's probably how I'll get in trouble. But it was just something that, I've heard Coach say a lot of things. I've heard him talk the talk, but to actually see him walk the walk like he did, and being a good leader is something as simple as, offering to take somebody's plate and cleaning up and just being a good person. And it's one thing to hear everybody talk about Coach O like that. And I know I've been around him for a few years, but it was really, he probably didn't think, I know he didn't think twice about it. He wasn't doing it because he thought, oh, people are going to see me being polite, cleaning up everybody else. He did it because that's the kind of person he is. And I figured I'd share that story because, there's some insights here that I get to see, and I just want to share that. And that's just kind of the person Coach O is. And it was pretty cool just to see somebody who is so high up in this organization, offered to take the plate of someone, within the team. And anyway, I might get in trouble for telling that story, but I thought I'd share it anyway. All right, very pleased now to be joined by Sarah Nurse, Olympic gold medalist, as we caught up with her earlier this week. And we started our conversation, actually it was earlier today at Tim Hortons Field. We started our conversation about kind of this experience and being here and getting to see the rink in place. And here's what she had to say.
Well, I'm over the moon. When I first heard about this, I was like, I have to get to this game. Obviously, for the community, for the city, it's so huge to be able to have an NHL game here, Heritage Classic, and outdoor hockey. Like, who doesn't love an ODR?
I was about to ask, I mean, you've probably played on just about every outdoor rink surface in this city. Every rink is, who am I kidding? Every rink in this city, outdoor or indoor. The Bulldogs are coming here, the Leafs are coming here. Are you hoping to get a chance to get out there on the ice yourself?
I think that'd be great. I think maybe I'll bring my skates, but we'll see. I have so many amazing memories in Hamilton, obviously, at the rinks. Skating for the first time at Gage Park is something that I'll always remember, but maybe I'll bring the skates, lace them up, and see what we can do.
Just a few weeks out from the Olympic gold medal. Congratulations. What was that experience like for you?
It was one of the most special experiences I've ever had. My team, we were absolutely at the most fun. It was an incredible time, and obviously coming home with gold medal is something that I'm so proud of, and the fact that we're back now and able to share it with the entire country is pretty awesome.
The Leafs and Sabres have such a great rivalry. Hamilton, Toronto, whether it's the Argos and Ticats, they have a great rivalry. But I'm not sure anything tops the Canadian women's team and the American women's team. What is with this rivalry? I mean, you guys really don't like each other, do you?
Yeah, it's really fierce. There's a hatred there, and I mean, with any rivalry, like, there's always pride on the line, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's an exhibition game, it doesn't matter if it's an Olympic gold game, like, there's so much pride on the line. So, yeah, every time we hit the ice together, we want to beat each other. We want to be the dominant team, and we want to be on top.
Yeah, and you guys were on top, and you got a big game coming up in a few weeks with the down in Pittsburgh. And I know you're working really hard on getting a women's league up and running. How is that going? And what have you found kind of the most receptive or kind of maybe some hurdles that you've gotten over?
Yeah, I think the response from different organizations, different groups, different NHL clubs has been overwhelming. It's been awesome, and so we look to inch closer to that end goal of having a league. I'm very optimistic and very excited. Obviously, going down to Pittsburgh, we're hosted by the Penguins next week. It'll be so much fun, and it's going to be good hockey. It's going to be a great game. We're excited to cap off the season. And
that is Hamilton native and Olympic gold medalist Sarah Nurse, as we had a chance to catch up with her down here at Tim Hortons Field earlier today. And you can watch our full conversation over at Ticats.ca. As mentioned, she was here promoting the 2022 Heritage Classic. She did confirm that, yes, she and her Canadian teammates will be here for the game, and that is despite the fact that they are playing the night before in Pittsburgh against the Americans. That's happening on March the 12th and then March 13th. Here at Tim Hortons Field. It is the 2022 Tim Hortons Heritage Classic between the Leafs and Sabres, and there was lots going on to promote that, including Toronto Maple Leafs legend Wendell Clark, along with Martin Biron, longtime NHL goalie and now an analyst with MSG in Buffalo, and our very own Simone Lawrence. They were all on hand on Monday as the kind of festivities officially kicked off here at Tim Hortons Field as the big ice-making truck arrived and as the rink has been going up throughout the week. So we had a chance to catch up with all three of them. And it's a great conversation. I recommend you go check it out at the Ticats Audio Network or wherever you found this podcast. It's also available on YouTube and Ticats.ca. But did want to get to this little clip here from Martin Biron talking about kind of comparing hockey players to football players and the toughness that each of them bring to their respective sports. And it was a great kind of moment between, a football player playing in Hamilton, French Canadian who spent most of his career in Buffalo, and a legend like Wendell Clark. This is just a taste of our full chat available on the Ticats Audio Network, but enjoy.
I'll say this. I mean, I've been lucky enough to enjoy watching the CFL or getting to watch the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, and fans from Southern Ontario come out to the games, and I don't know how I would do it if I had to. Like, I look at the guys catching the punts, right? The kick return. And they're looking at the ball, and they've got like 250-pound guys. Where's they at them? So I think for me, like people used to say, goalies are crazy. They take 100 miles an hour shots at their head, and they just stand in front of that little puck, right, flying at you. I'm saying football players are a lot crazier because they have big people on the field trying to take your head off and go right through you. So I got to give you credit. I got to give you credit for taking all these hits during your career? But for me, I thought it was easy, just a little pop.
I gotta give you guys credit for doing it in some skates.
The bonus is we got lucky with hockey. You got the glide. You could loaf out there a little bit.
Oh.
You guys stop moving your feet. That's it. Game's over. That's it. And whenever you get hit, sudden stop. We just kind of glide along the ice face first for a little while.
And that was Wendell Clark, Simone Lawrence, and Martin Biron. And we all caught up on Monday. They kind of took the keys from Simone Lawrence to Tim Hortons Field. And it was great to meet Wendell Clark as a Leafs fan, a lifelong Leaf fan. And a quick Wendell story that I will tell here. I had a jersey that I had worn to, I think it must have been one of the first games, one of the only games me and my dad went to for the Leafs. And I had this jersey. It was signed by Wendell Clark. It was awesome, and it was great. A few years, not sure what had happened, but somehow it had gotten through the wash. And my prized Wendell Clark autographed Leafs jersey was ruined. And you could still make out some outline of it. And so I've held on to the jersey. And when I learned that I was getting the chance to interview Wendell on Monday, I stuffed it in my backpack. And I will admit I have never asked a guest for an autograph. But I had to make an exception to this rule because for the first time in 20 years, my autographed Wendell Clark jersey is actually autographed by Wendell Clark completely again. So it was very cool to get to meet him, and along with Marty Biron, and to get to hang out with him and Simone and all those guys throughout the day. It's been a lot of fun, and still lots of fun to be had. As just a few short days away from the 2022 Tim Hortons Heritage Classic between the Leafs and Sabres. All right, back to some football talk, and very pleased now to be joined by Glen Suitor from the CFL on TSN. And Suits, it's only been a month since you and I caught up, but man, a lot has happened since then. Where do you want to start? I'll let you decide.
Yeah, I think we went through sort of the initial shock and awe of free agency, which was fun out of the gate for the first couple of days for sure. It's obviously quieted down since then, but interesting that the good teams, the teams that were in the championship, the teams that were in the finals, really did a good job of keeping their core together. And Hamilton's one of those teams. And that's, when you have the winning formula, you have the culture in the locker room, you don't want to mess with that too much. There has been exceptions to that, like Kenny Lawler in Winnipeg that moved on and, got a nice deal, a big contract. I think that was significant. And the other one is interesting to me is Edmonton. I think they're doing great things off the field with their new management, but with Chris Jones and bringing in, let's say, mature players.
Do you want to just say it? Do you want to just say it, Suits? I mean, do you want to just name them while you're here?
Well, when you think of Manny Arsenault and Darius Bowman and Duron Carter, those are two guys that are up there in age, one of which hasn't played a long time. Manny's played a little bit, and he is gym rat, so I'm not too worried about his sort of physical conditioning. And then you have Duron Carter, who, he comes with a bit of a history, good and bad. So it makes for an interesting dynamic on that team. Certainly one that will have tons of storylines going in that first month of the season. But how Chris Jones molds that group together and who's going to play quarterback for them is still a big question. But, teams like Ottawa have done well, and they've got their guy, and Hamilton has their guy. That was sorted out early, and so it's interesting.
Yeah, and let's talk about Ottawa real quick, because I feel like, I saw Chris O'Leary was writing about it this week at CFL.ca about, is this one of those years where we can look at the East of maybe having a better result than the West? Because, Ottawa got a lot better, at least on paper. And if anyone can kind of get that group figured out, it seems like Lapo might be the guy.
Yeah, I think they did the right thing by giving him a chance to sort of build a roster that he wants to. I think it's silly when a team brings in a brand new coach and within a year or year and a half they say goodbye to him. That's just not right. It's not fair to a coach. He needs time to put his core together, get the right people in that locker room. Again, I'm a big proponent that skill is part of the pie. If it's a pie graph, skill and athleticism is part of that, but it's not the biggest part, because when you get to the pro level, they're all good. So that piece of the pie for athleticism and skill is almost the same on every team. And that's what you alluded to, that through free agency and Ottawa getting their quarterback, and the fact that they've now putting together a nice looking roster with skilled players, well, that just means that their skill is that same size of the piece of pie that the rest of the league has. And all of them feel good about that right now. I think you can go across the board, and I think every coach would tell you, I feel pretty good about my team right now. So now what's the difference? What takes Hamilton further than Ottawa? Or what puts Winnipeg over the top, back-to-back champions? That's the culture. That's the character. That's the humility. Those type of things that guys like Coach O know all about, and they preach all the time, and that's why they're good teams.
You mentioned the word character there, and I think of this league is full of characters, and we were talking about this when we were setting this up, that it has been a busy month, and it is nice to see headlines every week with the certainty of the near certainty of a season, right? A full season, full stadiums. How does this CFL kind of capitalize on this? How can the teams, how can the players, where can we go from here? So, yes, the rosters seem mostly built, combine's coming up. How can we keep this kind of momentum going right up until training camp starts May 11th?
Yeah, it's a great question, because there's a lot to unpack there. And this is a golden opportunity for the league. I think unprecedented opportunity, an opportunity like never before, because right now, as we speak, the CFL Players Association are beginning their internal meetings to get ready for negotiations on a new CBA. This is going to be very, very important as a reset, a chance to really build. There are potentials here for the league for new revenues. When you talk about gambling specifically, and how new sponsorship through the gambling and the ability to gamble is going to help the league and help each team individually and the players by extension. So this is the opportunity with that perspective. A lost season, we know that it can be taken from us, everybody. Both sides in these negotiations will know that. They go into that room with that perception now, or perspective, I should say now. So they go in with that perspective, and they got the one season in. It was shortened. But you know how fragile it was, because a week and a half, 2 weeks after Grey Cup, we were into another variant, and had the Grey Cup been then, we might not have been able to play it. So, they understand that now, and now I hope that will lead to a couple of things. One, it'll lead to, with revenue sharing as part of the model now, the business model, that will lead to transparency. Every team is going to have a pretty good understanding of the other team's finances. In order to have revenue sharing, you need that transparency. Then, if that transparency is there, and it should be, you have built trust for the Players Association to see that all the teams, here's what the business model actually looks like. That way they can build. This is what I hope for, Louie, and I think I know people roll their eyes when I say this, and they have for the last couple of weeks. But I hope they can get to an agreement on a 7 to 10 year CBA. And I know that sounds unrealistic in some ways based on the history. But because of the new transparency, because of the new revenue sharing, and the potential of new revenues, serious new revenues, I hope they look at a long-term deal, because if we can get a long-term 7 to 10 year CBA, now we can build and market players staying in their communities longer. No more 1 year contracts, 2 or 3 year contracts, and 7 to 10 years of building. You know what that does? It takes a kid that's 10 years old right now that might visit a Hamilton Tiger Cat in his touch football camp. It takes him to when he's taking his girlfriend or his partner to a football game. It takes him to 22 years old if we have a CBA that they can build on. So I hope that's part of the discussion. It's happening as we speak. So let's hope they can get there.
And there really is a great marketing opportunity here to really, when the season rolls around come June, people are going to want to be getting outside. People are going to be getting back with their friends, really. And coast to coast, the league is in a really great spot to really market this across the board.
Yeah, after the Spanish flu, the world just sort of blew up. I mean, it was the Roaring 30s or whatever they called it, and it was everybody was out. They were dancing, they were partying, they loved it. And I think again, that's the opportunity that's right in front of our league is to take advantage of this pent up need for people to get together. And plus, we're in such a polarizing world right now. We're in such a divisive world. I mean, everything that's happened in Ukraine and all that's going on, we seem to be just fighting at every turn with each other. And sports brings us, as you know, sports brings us together. It's that one commonality of a community. So you go to a Ticat game, you are surrounded by people wearing the same stuff, and you're together for the first time. That's different religions, that's different politics. But on that 3-hour day, you are in the game together for your team. So we need sports to bring us together, I believe. And this is the opportunity the league has. Now, can we take full advantage of it? Because if we don't clean it up, if we don't look at how we can make this a long-term marketing possibility, 7 to 10 years, the NFL, I read this on Twitter, so I don't know all the details, and I'm very reluctant to ever trust Twitter. But the NFL just did a 10-year deal apparently with their CBA. I think they're thinking the same way when they did that. We can't every 3 years negotiate this new deal and have the negative press. That's the one other thing, Louie, I'll say, and I know you want to get to the next question, but the narrative and this hamster wheel that we as Canadians, and I include myself in this, have been on for as long as I can remember being involved with this league directly, either as a player or an analyst. And that's over 30 years now. And we're on the same hamster wheel every offseason. There's a league down south that's going to put us in trouble. There's finance issues. There's issues with the PA versus the league. The issues are, is it the NFL? Is it not the NFL? Is there any way you can put a team from the NFL in Toronto? All of these things is the same hamster wheel for over 30 years. Can we just jump off that finally? Can we just say, listen, we have a great league that is composed of and made up of world-class athletes and world-class coaches and administrators. Let's be proud of it. It's ours. It doesn't have to be the NFL. It is our unique game. It has different rules, which separates it, not better or worse, just different. And let's just be proud of it as Canadians and get off the hamster wheel of every single time something happens south of the border, we go, oh, now we're in trouble. Now we've got to deal with this. We have great athletes. Let's build our league and let's continue to grow it. And that's what a 7 to 10 year deal would do.
And it's such a great point. And you mentioned that fan who's, introduced to the team, who's introduced to the sport from a visit, even at school, right? And you talk about Hamilton being out in the community, and Courtney Stevens is doing such a great job with that now, making sure that people are out in the community. But also, I guess the Ticats, because I'm so close to it, I know what they've done is they've really turned the stadium into an experience. So
love it. Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I'll find myself in one of the banquet zones, and there's more people focused on just having a good time with their friends and being at the game. And it's a great model for other teams to follow. But like you said, that starts with that security of, long-term labor peace. And you mentioned popularity. We're hearing those negative stories coming out from the MLB, right, with their labor negotiations.
Exactly.
And it's just a PR nightmare.
Yeah, I sometimes fans will come up to me and they'll say, okay, I hear what you're saying, Glenn, and I agree with you. Well, what can I do? What can I do to help? And here's what you can do to help. You can just block or unfollow that same old hamster wheel narrative that keeps coming out, sometimes from people that should know better, to be honest. I don't need to bring up names. And sometimes there are people that work under the umbrella of the rights holders. And that happens too. But if you just decide that you're not going to follow that, you're not going down that rabbit hole any longer, you're going to go to that Hamilton Tiger Cat experience, you're going to be there with your buddies, you're going to bring it all together with your family, you're going to have a great afternoon in the sun, in the summer, watching a very good football team and the best game of the world. Best game of the world on TV, best game of the world to see live. It is a fun game to watch. It's got a little bit of everything, as you know, world-class athletes in our league. Yeah. They're world-class athletes in our league. And that's the narrative that we got to keep hammering home, because it's true. That is the truth of it. And now how does a fan help? A fan just, it's kind of like when I always get ribbed for my love of music, and my love of music is country. I love country music. And I hear the same old things. Well, in country music, you lose your truck and your girlfriend and your horse, and that's country music. I say, that joke is 60 years old and it's dead. It's really dead. And I blow it off now, not following it. I love my country music. I'm proud of it. If you don't like it, then tell me what you like and sell me on your thing. Yeah. That's what fans can do individually. And if we have enough of those fans, we're going to fill stadiums.
And you know what? It's such a great point, not just for sports, but for life, right? I mean, you don't have to engage with everybody. And every time I see a comment on, a Sportsnet article or a TSN article talking about CFL, and the first response is, "What's the CFL?" Yes, people's ignorance, people's arrogance. It's not something to get worked up over. But again, good advice, not just for football or sports, but good advice for life, Suits. Thank you for doing this.
Block that guy. I'll give you one more just as I leave. John Tory was the intern, of course, in Toronto now, in government in Toronto, but he was the interim commissioner of the league for a while. And he had a great quote, and I've used it many times. And he said, if sometimes I believe the way Canadians are, and in some ways it's a strength, but sometimes I believe if Canadians were voted the best country in the world, Canada was, Canadians would ask for a recount. I thought, why do we do that? You don't have to kick it. Enjoy it. Have a great time. That's what CFL football is all about.
And that is a perfect way to end this conversation. Suits, I always feel a lot smarter after we talk, always much more informed. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Lee.
And my thanks to Glen Suitor for joining me on today's show. And my thanks to you, the dedicated listener. Could not do the show. Thanks for sticking with us here as my voice barely hangs on as we wrap up the week. I promise I will rest it up much better. I'm blaming being back in the office. I'm used to working from home in my apartment and talking to myself. And I guess I talk to my coworkers a lot more than I talk to myself because yes, this is not what you're used to, so I apologize. And again, my thanks to you for sticking it out. And I would be remiss if I did not mention this. I'm going to get some slack for it for mentioning it, but tomorrow is my birthday. Tomorrow I turn 30. And if I have this space, I just want to be able to acknowledge the people who helped me get to 30. And that's you, the listener, but that's also so many other people. My 20s have been a lot of fun. It's been ups and downs and some tough life lessons, and it's gotten me this far. But if you had told 20-year-old Lou that he'd be doing this at 30, I think he'd be proud of him. And I just want to thank everybody who helped me get to 30 and who's going to help me get to 40 and 50 and everything else beyond. So thank you. Could not do the show without your support. We're back next week for the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louie B. Hoping you have a great day.